everyone, I'm Jennifer. I am a CommLab tutor at UTD, and today I'm going to teach you 5 steps to outline your speech. Are you somebody that's stressing about brainstorming or outlining a speech? If you are, then you're on the right place. Trust me, I used to be the same type of people, but the beginning is always the hardest, and here's a few tips and steps that will help you to get started. And here's how the 5 steps looking like when I break them down. The first step is to understand the expectation. The second step is to brainstorm a topic or a theme. The third step is to make an introduction or a thesis. The fourth step is how to research and further develop details and put them into your body paragraph. And the last step is about making a conclusion that will wrap up your speech. Now, let's dive into each step into more detail. Step 1 is to understand the expectation. Ask yourself the question, what kind of speech I'm preparing? You want to read the rubrics and make sure you know the instruction before you get started. That way you know that you are heading towards the right direction. Is it an informative speech or persuasive speech that you are preparing? Are you trying to convince people about something or just telling people about something that they didn't know? Is it an individual presentation or group presentation? Because that might have to do with how much time you have. For a group presentation, you might have 10 minutes and 2 minutes for each person. If it's like individual presentation, maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes for each presentation. Is there a template that you are required to use? Or you can just structure freely for your presentation or your speech? Is there a citation or resources that your professor might require? Like there has to be each citation for each body paragraph, or there has to be at least this citation that you use in your speech. Think about that. And think about if you need to make a visual ad. Will a PowerPoint presentation help you better illustrate your topic to your audience? Will that help your presentation to be more appealing to the audience? Think about those. And after you get your detail down and what kind of speech you're preparing, let's go to the next step. So the step 2 is to brainstorm a topic. So put yourself in your audience's shoes. Ask yourself a question. Why should I listen to your speech? Is your speech interesting to your audience? Is something that can get their attention? Is your speech that something is maybe live related or informational to your audience? It could be like a piece of knowledge that is important for them to know, or some tips in life that they can implement in their life. And also when you're brainstorming a topic, you want to make sure that it's easy to explain and it's not too complex. Because when it's like a speech, you usually probably don't have too much time and you don't want to put a lot of jargon in it. Well, first, it will make your speech maybe sounds boring and it will make some audience just couldn't understand your topic and be confusing. And third of all, it will be harder you want to make it sound like interesting and entertaining to the audience. And sometimes when you are talking about like a too professional topic in like the essay tone, that would just make your speech sounds less interesting and just harder to get audience attention. The third step is to make an introduction. An introduction is making up of 2 important pieces, which is the attention getter and the thesis. For attention getter, the main way is to catch audience attention, to make interaction with the audience, to make them curious about what you're talking about next. It could be like a rhetorical question. For example, do you know how many of people die with diabetes in Texas every year? Or you could be something that's relatable to audience. How many of you drive to school every day? How many of you commute in DFW area? That way you can make interaction with the audience to catch your attention. And for thesis, is a statement, it's a sentence, so you want to be very concise. And in this sentence, you want to be able to identify your topic and let the audience know what is your focus. It could also be like a preview to your body, because all of your body and your subtopic will be supported to your thesis. And also your thesis has to be correspond to your conclusion. It's something that you want to emphasize about your theme of your speech. And also be careful if it's like informative, because you don't want to sound like make your thesis sounds very much like a personal opinion, like a political view, right? So if you don't know where to start it for thesis, just ask yourself, put yourself in audience shoes and ask yourself the question again. Why should my audience be interested about my speech? And what was the reason for listening? After you get your thesis down and your introduction finished, you will start dive into your research and develop your body paragraph, and which is the part that you will need more details that will support your thesis. And here are a few things to think about. So first of all, think about, okay, how do I break all the contents and everything I want to say into 3 paragraphs? How do those 3 body will be complementary to each other and altogether support my thesis? And that's also the sub point for maybe I find some website, the book, the essay, the research that is supportive to my subtopic. What piece of information I'm taking? Is it like a statistical number? Is it like a quote from the famous professor from Harvard? Also be careful, you just want to have enough detail to put them into your speech. You don't want to quote it like a whole paragraph. That will be way too long, and that will make your speech sounds somehow boring, because it sounds different when you're talking and when you're doing your speech, and compare as when you're writing an essay. And when you're doing quoting somebody and doing the quotation, don't forget to do the overcitation. Be sure to include the author, the year it was published, who published it, like location, the name of the article, etc., etc., etc. That way will establish your credibility and also be respect to the author. And last but not least, you want to make sure you have good transition from one body paragraph to another. That way there's a smooth flow, and also you can find connection to like connect each point together. And last step but not least, you want to make a conclusion that'll be able to wipe out your speech. And here's a few do's and don'ts to think about when you're doing your conclusion. The first is the do's. So conclusion is something that you want to catch audience attention again. You want to make signal to tell them, hey, I am ending my speech. So you want to talk about something that you will emphasize in your introduction and be corresponds to your introduction and thesis. If it is especially important when you're doing a persuasive speech. If you are convinced somebody, then it's probably better to repeat your argument, your sentence over and over. That way the audience can remember it. So think about the question, what you want the audience to take away from your speech. Something, maybe it's a piece of knowledge that's important to their life. Maybe it's something that they can implement in their life. And lastly, you can end up with like a call to action. For example, next time when you are throwing away a plastic bottle, make sure to not put them into a trash can. Instead, put them in your recycle bin. It's something that audience can implement in their life after your speech. Something that they can change. For don't use "that's all I have to say" or "thank you" to let the audience know, oh, that is the end of speech. because they will just walk away and forget everything that you've been saying. And don't say the thing that is relevant to your thesis and your topic. That will make your audience confused and completely don't know what you're talking about. And prevent use a very long quote in your ending paragraph because you want your conclusion to be concise and straight to the point, just like your introduction. And last, you don't want to start a new topic or argument at the end of your speech, because that was the same reason as making irrelevant statements to your thesis and topic. It's just unnecessary and confusing. And that was a 5-step for drafting and outlining your speech. If you have any thoughts or any questions, welcome to visit us in person at library 1.310, or you can email us at comlab@utdallas.edu, or making in-person appointment or online appointment. That way we can further assist you with your presentation or your speech.